Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon Podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon Podcast. Most people don't hate companies, they hate their customer support. Long wait times, robotic responses, and scripted apologies are costing businesses billions in churn. Brian Kenny, co-founder and CEO of Momntum, thinks it doesn't have to be this way. His company has built Leila, an AI system designed to actually understand people, not just their words, but their intent and emotion. It's not just smarter support, it's more human, and it might just change how businesses talk to customers. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here.
So, I spoke to David Roders from Pipe Network a couple of weeks ago, maybe months by now, and he said to me that AI chatbots are sort of the number one driver of their business, which is essentially making sure that all your data gets to one point faster. So AI chatbots really a big business at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that we tend to look at the majority of the problem is if we think about customer service, I think we'd all pretty much agree that it's broken. It's broken in so many different ways. There's really long wait times. It's all kind of disconnected responses. And if you're ringing your bank or you're talking to your broadband provider, you can feel very transactional, like you're just a number in a business or take a ticket and stand in line. And we really feel that a lot of the customer service world doesn't need to be, we don't want to do like an iterative next version of what customer service is going to be, but instead build it from the very ground up. What would a modern take on customer service or experience look like for modern businesses that are out there?
Yeah, but does that mean necessarily replacing people, or is it something else?
So this is a great question. And I think we really try to think about it from when does the company make these decisions? And for us, when a company is going through like a really strong growth trajectory, and there comes a time in their growth where they say, the unit economics of customer service is becoming a little cost prohibitive. It might be time for us to start looking at external companies, external services in order to maintain our customer service aspects of our business. Instead, we really believe that AI has this superpower to help keep the customer service and experience still within that business. It can be an aid, it can be a tool to enable the customer service to stay within the company and for it to stay true to what the founders originally wanted to create and to believe in. So we can train models, train Leila, who is our AI personality, on what the best experience would be for their customers and for her to leverage that. So it's a tool and it's an advantage for these companies rather than it, let's just say, taking the jobs type of thing.
Yeah, because ultimately, you get bad customer service in robotics and in people. I know companies that are like people first and all people, and the customer service is bad. So I know some people don't like to talk to robots, but then it's like, for me, at the end of the day, it's efficiency. What is making the customer the happiest? Is it talking to a human but getting bad customer service? Is it not liking to talk to a robot, or whatever, but then being satisfied? So you mentioned there your model is called Leila, or like why is it a female, first of all, and what makes her different than anything else out there?
So we spent a substantial amount of time really building what we call our RLM. So it's a relationship language model. And the core differentiation between what's out there is we do, of course, leverage the frontier models in order to do some, kind of calculations or come back with responses. But what we ultimately care about is what is the business trying to achieve? What is the goals? What do they believe in? And what is their vision?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, what is the customer's, personality? What is the emotional response? How do they like to be spoken to? And really understanding the traits of that customer. Because we know that 2 out of 3 people will leave a business if they have a really bad customer experience. So instead of us going for the transactional, how do we solve the query of the customer as it comes up? Instead, we train Leila in order to build a bond or a relationship with that customer based on the business's goals to say, how can we make sure the customer has an amazing experience and that the lifetime value of that customer is targeted rather than it being a transactional cost? So this kind of turns into amazing scenarios where we've had customers chatting with Leila and saying, can you please tell me who your manager is so that we can write a glowing recommendation about how good you are? Or there's even scenarios where, a lady was booked in
Proposing.
for an appointment.
Yeah.
It's so good. She was booked in for an appointment, and unfortunately, something happened with her dog, and she had to bring her dog to the vet.
Mm-hmm.
And Leila was, of course, yeah, no worries, we'll cancel that appointment. Hope everything is okay, and so on. But then a couple of months later, when the lady gets back in touch to say, I want to book my appointment, the first thing that Leila says is, how's your dog?
Ah,
And how's everything going?
ah.
And so on. So there's like this really strong bond that gets created with the customer. And that's why, the LTV and the revenue is just going up and to the right by offering this level of customer experience.
Okay, couple of things. Last week I noticed GPT changed as well, but you talking about frontier models. I was asking it a medical question, and it, out of the blue, asked me, how is your son doing? Or how is your youngest and your oldest? So it knows because I've got custom GPT wrappers for their medical stuff. And it was like, I don't think anyone's asked me about my children, and I don't know when. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because to me, it's like, I don't think we want to necessarily speak to people anymore, and maybe we want that type of interaction.
Yeah, I mean, it brings up a very big point, which is for us, data privacy and data collection and so on
Ah,
is really at the forefront of what we want to do. So the way that we've always operated is, uh, first of all, everything within Momentum is siloed and within its container. So anything
yes.
around calculations around, emotion, personality, and all these different aspects of customers stays on our side of the fence.
Mm,
When we look at frontier models and companies who are pushing innovation at a substantially fast pace, um, we really take that responsibility really heavily. And we kind of say, first of all, no LLM or external provider is allowed to train on any data that we send to them.
mm,
Second
mm,
of all, anytime that we create a thread or use some sort of aspect for calculation, when we dispose of that thread, we have an agreement where they must completely delete all of that data out of their system. So we don't, we want to be as responsible as we potentially can be. And we want to have at the core of Momentum this idea of, really taking data privacy and security at one of the
mm.
kind of highest standards we can.
Has anyone proposed to Leila yet? Do you know?
I don't know. It's getting to this really strange place where we're growing at such a fantastic rate that she's multilingual, and there's conversations. Some of the strangest conversations are in Urdu, or there's quite a large amount that speak to her in Spanish and all of these other languages. That translations and all of that aspect is now core of where we need to get to. Even Irish is used, which is very
Because
interesting
the
to see.
nuanced, because between the linguistics, then there is nuance, right? If I speak Spanish, or if I speak English, it's different.
Exactly. And there's all of these, when we really think about customer service, right?
Mm, mm.
We've built in some really simple but really helpful aspects. You could be on the phone having a call with Leila, and
Mm.
she'll say, you know what, this call has taken 2 or 3 minutes. If you want, what I can do is I can WhatsApp you now, and we can continue the conversation there because you have other stuff to do, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. And it's true omni-channel where she'll move the conversation to the place where you might feel the most comfortable. Or on WhatsApp, Spanish speakers feel so much more comfortable voice noting in Spanish than they do sending, written text. We need to be there with the customer on the medium that they prefer to be on at all
Yeah.
times. So
Yeah.
it's truly powerful.
Have you had any feedback from people in terms of why they like to do it like this? So for me, from my standpoint, I just want to explain is I found myself gravitating away from Google and Google search to using LLMs because just it's so static. Google doesn't talk back to me. I can't engage with it. Is this sort of something that you're seeing as well?
It's strange. I recently heard a great post from Sam Altman about how
Mm,
different age ranges are using ChatGPT and the different types of queries. As in, your kind of 40 to 60-year-old is using it in a very, query Google type of scenario. How do I do X, Y, and Z?
mm,
The tier below that is kind of using it a little bit more in a, I'm having these kind of struggles. Can you help me develop a plan and a more kind of architected way? And then
mm-hmm,
sub kind of 20, they're using it in a very operating system kind of way. Like they have these different agents that are doing all these different things. There's crazy amounts of different innovation that's happening in lots of different spaces within AI. I think
mm-hmm,
for us, it's really staying true to how can we provide the best customer experience? And the best customer experience for us is she needs to be enabled to do things. For example, there's nothing worse than chatting with a human or an AI and them not being able to take action. I need you to
yeah,
do
or
this for
in
me.
the
And
feed,
she's like, I'll
or
take
in the
that.
loop. Yeah, you'll hear people say, "I was sent from pillar to post." It's just this loop the whole time.
And you get this kind of defensiveness even in some traditional
Oh,
customer service where it's,
oh
I need to
yeah,
escalate that now,
oh
or
yeah.
something needs to go to a higher level. I think there's trust and responsibility that needs to be built within that arena.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to transact or to ask questions on the medium that you want to, and for her, for Leila to kind of take that in a really happy, emotive way, deal with your query and come back to you. People are crying out for that.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to ask you about the emotional aspect of building that model, and you don't have to go into detail because obviously it's proprietary information. But how did you train the model? On what did you train it to be emotionally aware? Did you use business psychology? Did you use like the sort of human psychology? What exactly was it? Just sort of in broad spectrum.
There's levels of psychology that do go into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's also just really being a pair of ears at the very beginning, as in what we
Mm,
would do is generate momentum and allow for current calls and the current system of how a business or a client of ours is operating to flow through momentum so that we can understand what is a good call, what is a bad communication, and kind of really help to understand the different customer behaviors. There's also looking at it in a cohort or holistic way, the
mm-hmm.
different customers that businesses have and how they interact with those customers. There's then looking at different cohorts of these are the customers that have a really strong relationship with you. These are the ones that are falling out of a relationship with you and why. Have they not come to your business an X amount? Did they receive a bad communication? And then you start to get into the next realm of really interesting capabilities, which is generating bespoke external marketing messaging to these customers. If there's an offer, if there's something that's really tailored to them, because Leila knows them so well, can create a custom message that is really built for
Yeah.
Brian to say, you love this service or you love this, and with this kind of configuration, take 20% off and enjoy it, or something like that.
This is This is insane, man. This is insane. Let's talk about
It's so
when,
good.
this is like Black Mirror stuff. But I love it. But yeah, it's still crazy. So when I did research about Momentum, I saw a case study that popped up about SISU Clinic and the insane ROI that they experienced using Leila. Sort of, what do you think was the key success factor for them?
Um, so this is a really interesting one.
Mm,
CISA was one of our first clients. They are, clinics in North America, Ireland, and the UK, growing at a phenomenal rate, but
mm,
also have a really, um, large configuration of services. You can have a lot of people when they think about Botox or different medical kind of aesthetic clinics. There's a lot of questions to be answered. What does it feel like? How is it, who's going to be in the room with me? All of these different types of configurations that need to go there.
mm-hmm.
There's also multilingual. They have clinics in Miami, so a lot of Spanish there.
Spanish. Yeah.
So there's lots to kind of come into the equation. Then there's also people work 9 to 5. So a lot of the questions come up from
Okay.
customers when
Oh,
they're watching
after.
TV at like
Oh.
7 or 8 o'clock at night. There's also a lot of privacy that wants to come into it where they want to send a message on WhatsApp and get an answer back. And then there's just the overall value of Leila being able to handle the customer and their emotive responses to different questions really well and getting them to a place, not immediately, but over time, where they feel safe and happy in answering these questions and pushing them. So it's gotten to a really favorable place, and I think the ROI is a testament to that.
Okay, let's talk about trust. And you said it's basically trust over time. How do you make sure that model doesn't hallucinate or sort of misread a situation? Obviously, these things happen. We've seen chatbots from Google go off the rails, and I mean, we know what happened on Twitter or X. How do you sort of handle that whole situation internally?
It's really so first of all, to go back to the, when we think about the externality of
Mm,
dealing with frontier models or anything that's outside of our system, we kind of touched on that quite well.
yeah.
The next thing is really around guardrails and
Mm,
ensuring that there is a strong division in the capability of what the AI can do and what it has access to. So, for
okay.
example, if you were to jump onto one of our live chat, the chat bubble kind of things that are on websites, in order for Leila to have access to your upcoming appointments or anything like that, we need to authenticate through, two-factor authentication, mobile text codes, and all of these elements so that she's only aware of the information once she's been given permission to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Adding in different guardrails to ensure that if she ever starts to try to push outside of the boundaries that she's allowed to operate in, that she's automatically shut down within that regard, is really instrumental in the growth of momentum. So we take that as probably one of the most serious kind of pillars within the
Okay.
organization.
How is that even possible? That's my follow-up question is pushing outside the realms of her programmable capability. And I'm not specifically talking about momentum. I'm just talking about in general. How is it possible that code can go outside of its parameters and learn itself and become not self-aware or I'm not talking about AGI, but just push because it's at the end of the day, it's code. So you wrote it, you know what it's doing, but now you don't know what it's doing. How does that work?
It's more, think about it from a scenario of, let's take Sisu for example. Here's a really
Okay,
interesting one.
okay.
Within Sisu, you have different clinics. You
Mm-hmm.
have different services within those different clinics. You have different doctors that work in each of the clinics, and the doctors might move around between different clinics.
Mm-hmm.
So even with those three scenarios, you might have, 10 different API endpoints of how to get this information. For example,
Okay.
in order to pull back the list of services, you need to provide a branch or a clinic ID in order to do that, and so on. what the AI or Leila will try to do is figure out what can I play with here? As in, I can hit any of these endpoints. I can run these different tool calls. I can figure out what information or potential information is available to me. But for our guardrails, we're putting in extra blocks to say you can't go here without this information, or you can't do that without having already checked these safeguards beforehand. So it adds an extra level of defense to ensure that the AI can't just kind of fluidly figure out different paths and come up with different ways. So hallucinations for us is more, why did she say that? Or why does she get that time wrong? Or why is that booking, that appointment slot incorrect? Rather than it being something, potentially a question that we can't figure out.
I love that. Eventually, we can't figure out how often do you run those diagnostics? Is it once a day? Is it every second day? Is it a week?
I think it's every couple of hours. So we do evals on everything that we do. Yeah, it's more for level of service than anything else.
Yeah,
so
it's mad.
You gotta think about it from so even if we thought about Anthropic, OpenAI, Llama, and all the different models there, or even Bedrock and Amazon and so on, there's continual push and innovation that happens. That sometimes the current models shift and change. So what we need to do in order to provide a sustained level of service is, first of all, to be LLM agnostic, but second of all, to run continuous, like we used to in engineering world, call it unit tests or test-driven development, where you fire the same question over and over again, and you evaluate what the response back is. And if the response confidence is not within the levels that we would define as acceptable, then something is broken. We need to figure out what that is.
Awesome. So last question before I let you leave this truly Black Mirror episode. What's next for you guys? Is it concentrating on market penetration? Is it new products in the line? What's sort of coming up for the next half of the year, Q3 and Q4?
So it's really two main things. Number one, continuing to accelerate the development within our RLM and really making sure that when Leila is having a conversation with a customer, that it is the best customer experience conversation that can happen, building up that trust over time and really building that bond. The second thing is, where we see our technology really, providing the biggest amount of value is in anything that's high customer touch and really strongly powered by technology. So airlines, restaurants, travel, anything around those experiences where
service industries,
you're ringing up to book a res. Yeah.
Service industries, automotive, dentists. I'm just thinking it's service industries like dentists and auto bodies and hairdressers, everything the way you have touch points, a lot of touch points.
Exactly. And, potentially at some point you will have Leila for yourself and you can say, hey, listen, I want to book my hair and do my thing or whatever. I have my routine that I want you to take care of, and she can do that across the spectrum.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and Momntum and find out more about Leila and what you can do, where can they do that?
Momntum.com. So MOMNTUM.com. No E in the start.
I will leave all the links in the comments here somewhere. Thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. And we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Locked away, waiting for some perfect day. I've seen dreams dressed up in white, never lived to taste the light. It's not real, my dear, not like they show. Life's a blank, then you let it go. You chase the stars, you miss the sky. You plan forever, then wonder why. It's not real, my dear, not the way they said. We live light, we're saving joy for the end. So dance tonight, don't disappear. Cause it's not real, my dear, not real. She had goals, he had a 5-year map. Now their names on a folded plaque. none told them when to guess. You're here now, hearts too loud. Why live soft in a world this proud? It's not real, my dear, not like we show. Life's a blank, then you let it go. You chase the stars, you miss the sky. You plan forever, then wonder why. It's not real, my dear, not the way they said. We live light, we're saving joy for the end. So dance tonight, don't disappear. Cause it's not real, my dear, not real. You booked the trip but missed the plane. You packed your bags but stayed the same. Waiting's not a safety net, it's just the prettiest regret. You run, you grind, you climb, you stall. The clock don't care, it eats us all. No one wins by standing still. So love too much and break at will. It's not real, my dear, just a game they play. Say you'll live tomorrow, then fade away. You chase the dream, forget to feel. But nothing fake can make it real. It's not real, my dear, not the way it seems. So kiss like it's fire, cry in your jeans. The moment's loud, the end is near. So hold it now, my dear, my dear. They never told us when.